You know what? Christopher Columbus has never been here. I'm the first non-native to come across this land. And not just that.
Hello, my name's Brendan Walsh, and today we're going to be talking about the Santa Bandits. Our story starts in 1927, in the days leading up to Christmas. Marshall Ratliff got out of jail, and he's like, I'm out of jail, time to rob another bank. But I need help, so I'm gonna get this guy, Ed Helms.
Oh, from The Hangover.
This guy, Henry Helms? I'm gonna get Henry Helms and Robert Hill, and they rope in Helms's brother-in-law, Lewis Davis. And Ratliff says, help us rob this bank in Cisco. And Ratliff's afraid he's gonna get recognized. He goes, I wanna disguise myself. Hey, it's Christmas. So they steal this Buick, and they arrive in Cisco on the morning of December 23rd. Ratliff gets out of the car, he's dressed as Santa, and gets mobbed by kids.
You see Santa, kids are gonna come towards you.
Kids wanna see you. You're like the Justin Bieber of the times.
Yeah.
And he's a bank robber, but he's like, okay, I gotta go. Santa's gotta make a deposit, kids. So after that, he goes into the bank, and he doesn't even say anything. And the tellers are like, Santa's here. And then Hill, Helms, Davis all bust in with their guns ablazing. They go, hey, all right, everybody shut up! We're robbing this place. Santa Ratliff gets $12,400 in cash and $150,000 in bonds. Santa's like, yeah! But this lady, Mrs. Blessingame, goes into the bank and f***ing loses her shit. She's like, ah! So she runs out screaming her head off.
I love that Duncan Trussell as this woman.
Hey, Terrence McKenna predicted this bank was gonna be robbed, man. So then the whole town, they hear her running up and down the street. And at this time, the Texas Bank Association was like, well, we're offering $5,000 for anybody who shoots a bank robber during a bank robbery. And the whole town is like, we could use $5,000. That's a lot of money back now. So everybody grab their guns, because an angry mom's about to form. So they go into the bank while all the robbery's going on. And then everybody just starts shooting. Customers are getting shot. A guy gets shot in the leg. So the Santa Bandits, they're like, why everybody's shooting us? Get into the alley, because that's where the Buick is. But everybody keeps shooting. A bandit gets shot. The bank president gets shot. Everybody's going nuts. All right, so the Santa Bandits, they grab these two young girls as human shields to get into their Buick and get the f out of there. So Santa's driving the car, and he looks at the gas gauge, and he goes, what the we're f***ing almost out of gas.
What a bunch of idiots.
And they're like, we drove 100 miles from Wichita Falls, and we didn't get gas in 1927. So they see this Oldsmobile, and they're like, give us your Oldsmobile. And he leaves. Helms gets shot. They're like, come on, put all the money in here and get Davis in there. And they get in the Oldsmobile, and then they realize, the keys. So they're like, well, we can't do anything to this. So then they like get back into the Buick and they leave Davis there. Poor sap. He's and they're like, well, that sucks. And they're like, oh shit, we left the money in that car too, in the Oldsmobile. And they're like, what's it mean when you're swallowing too much?
Good question.
So they're trying to cross the Brazos River, but they get ambushed and they shoot Ratliff 6 times. So Helms and Hill just give themselves up and Ratliff survives. So the townsfolk are out there. They're like, we've had it with this guy. And they put a noose around his neck. They're like, we're gonna publicly lynch you because we've had it with your shit. And he's just like, hey, I got an idea. Forgive me. And then they're like, all right, and then they f***ing hang him. And well, yeah, then he's croaked. These guys f***ed up. Because back then, it was so easy to get away with crimes. They were stupid.
Hi, I'm Jessica Meraz, and today we're going to be talking about Juan Ponce de León, or as white people call him, Ponce de León. Juan Ponce de León is a Spanish explorer. King Ferdinand is like, you know what, Ponce? I dig you. You've done a really great job, and in honor of your service to Spain, I'm gonna send you over to Puerto Rico to be the governor. So Ponce de León's like, okay, cool. He goes to Puerto Rico, and he sees the people, he's like, love you, you guys are cool. Sees the land, it's like, oh my God, it's bountiful, and it's awesome. So,
It's kicking in.
okay, so back in Spain, Diego Columbus is there. He's Christopher Columbus's eldest son, and he is like rich kid, dick face. And he's like, you know what, King Ferdinand, you owe me shit. You told my dad he's supposed to have control over all the West Indies and everything that he explored. And the king is like, you, my man Ponce, who is like a good dude, is taking care of Puerto Rico. I don't care who your dad is, but like, shut the up. So he goes and he finds the king's cousin. Her name was Maria Alvarez de Toledo.
Wait, give it to me again.
Maria Alvarez de Toledo.
Wait, that's too fast.
Maria Alvarez de Toledo.
Wait, one at a time.
Maria
Maria
Alvarez
Alvarez
de
de
Toledo.
Toledo.
Okay. So he seduces this chick and marries her and basically blackmails the king. And he's like, you know what, King Ferdinand, make me the viceroy of the entire West Indies, which includes Puerto Rico, and the governor of Hispaniola, which is the island just west of Puerto Rico. And King Ferdinand has no choice. His hands are tied. So in 1509, Diego Columbus goes over to Hispaniola, plunders all the resources, is a huge dick, brings over a slew of white chicks from Spain, and is like, oh, for my Spanish conquistador fellow army men, like, you know, take your pick, you can, with whatever chick you want to. And his buddies Juan Serrano and Miguel Diaz are over, and he's like, ya llegaron a la fiesta, vamos a echarnos unas chéves.
What did he just say?
Let's have some drinks. Let's have a good time. Let's party, man.
Very cool.
So there they go. And it's like, yeah, party island. And he turns Hispaniola into like a frat boy party. So he's like, you know what? You guys, go over there, take over Puerto Rico. It's supposed to be mine anyway. Ponce de León. So he's doing whatever he wants over in Hispaniola, while just one island over in Puerto Rico, Ponce de León is like skipping around with the people. He's like, hey, what's up? And they're like, hey, Ponce. Serrano and Diaz go over to Puerto Rico and kick Ponce de León out of power and are like, we're in charge now. They're barbaric, they're enslaving the people, being super douches. So Ponce de León is like, I can't witness my people just being like totally treated like this. So he gathers up some of his Spanish men and he's like, you know what? Let's chain these and send them back to Spain. And King Ferdinand is like, what the are you doing? I get it, these guys are assholes, but you don't have the power to do that? So Juan Serrano and Miguel Diaz go back to Puerto Rico. And Ponce de Leon's like, King Ferdinand, fine. If I can't have Puerto Rico, there's this other island to the northwest a little bit that is just as full of gold and the land is just as bountiful. And he says, okay, go do your thing. So Ponce de Leon's like, all right, sweet. So it takes him a couple of months and he gets together a ship and a group of Spaniards. In 1513, he sets sail in the wide open waters of the Atlantic Ocean for this mystery island. A month later, he sees land. As he sees it, he realizes, you know what? Christopher Columbus has never been here. I'm the first non-native to come across this land. And not just that. I lost it. So he shows up and he's like, oh my God, I'm the first non-indigenous person to show up on this land. Sets down the Spanish flag, unrolls it, and is like, I hereby proclaim this land as being Spanish. And I call it La Florida. And there he's left to make this land his own. Till the end of time.
History.
Hello. Today, we're gonna talk about the caning of Charles Sumner. In the middle of the 1800s, Kansas is up for whether or not it's gonna be a slave state or a free state. Charles Sumner is a senator, an anti-slavery radical. And Charles Sumner gives a speech entitled The Crime Against Kansas. He basically says, Kansas is being raped by the perpetuators of slavery who wanted to be a slave state. Then he starts making personal attacks. He says, oh, Andrew Butler, South Carolina, who's normally sits next to me, but uh-oh, you had a stroke. You are not here. Guess what you are? A f***ing pimp for the prostitute of slavery. Oh, you know who's in the chamber that day? Preston Brooks, representative, South Carolina, Andrew Butler's second cousin. He's like, this dude is f***ing slandering my state. He's slandering my family? He says, the Southern Code of Honor, I can't let this just f***ing transpire. What am I gonna do? I can't challenge him to a duel because only gentlemen duel, and Charles Sumner's no gentleman. Oh, I was just given a brand new 11.5-ounce gotta purchase cane with a gold head. I'll beat him with them. May 22nd, 1856. He walks down the aisle of the Senate. He's 5 feet from Charles Sumner. And he looks up and realizes there's a lady in the chamber. And he's like, oh, can't beat Charles Sumner in front of a lady. And he sits down across the aisle, he leaves, he's like, I'm gonna do this thing. And everyone's just like, you got it. And he walks back in. And Charles Sumner, he's nearsighted, he's like, oh, that's all blurry. Preston Brooks is like, I read your speech twice, and guess what? It's a libel against South Carolina, and it's a libel against Andrew Butler, and guess what? He's a cousin of mine, and beats him so hard on the top of the head that he goes blind. Lawrence Keat comes in. Let them be, he says. All told, Brooks beats Sumner over the head 30 times with his cane. Charles Sumner is bloodied, beaten, but he doesn't die. The North is like, what the f? The South is like, yeah, that's how he does. Preston Brooks is an immediate celebrity. Charleston merchants buy him a cane inscribed with the words, hit him again. And he's like, I was defending my state. Eat a. Which dick? This dick. Y'all worry about the water spinning on the drum. By 1858, Sumner, he's like still up. He can't walk. He meets Dr. Brown's Sequoia. He lights fire cotton on his back. He's like, oh, pain moves around your body, bada boop, bada beep. Guess what? I don't know anything.
And every time, Charles Sumner is like, ah! Every bit of anguish, every bit of pain that I feel, I will return to the perpetuators of slavery 10,000 times slavery. And in 1860, he finally gets to give a speech on the floor of the Senate after he returns, called The Barbarism of Slavery, in which he says, say that you own the sun, say that you own the moon, say that you own the stars, but don't say that you own a man, because when a sun and moon and stars have died, a man's soul will live on forever. The moral of the story is you should fight for what you believe in. And if what you believe in is that human beings are human beings, then you should fight to your death to defend that, because slavery is bullshit.
Hello. Today we're talking about Chris Christopherson.
What?
Chris Christopherson got incredible grades, and he was a Rhodes Scholar. And then he was trained as an Army Ranger to fly helicopters. His platoon commander knew someone in Nashville that worked for Johnny Cash. We can get you in free to a show at the Grand Ole Opry. Yeah, I'll love it. Let's do it. So Chris takes a 1-week leave and watches Johnny Cash. He felt a power and an energy, because that's what Johnny Cash did. Chris felt transfixed. My God, this is my hero. And Chris said in that moment that he was thunderstruck. And then Johnny Cash walked off, and Johnny Cash walked over and shook his hand. Boom. Holy this is my hero, and he just came up to me and connected with me. So Chris says, you know what, I'm gonna quit this, and he quits the Army, and he moves to Nashville, Tennessee, with the idea of becoming a great singer-songwriter. Finally, a job opens up of being a janitor at Columbia Records. And then his mother writes him a letter. Your hero, Johnny Cash, is a drug addict. And of course he sings at San Quentin and Folsom right now, because a jailbird sings to jailbirds. So we have now officially disowned you. We hope somehow you come to your senses, because you're not a songwriter. Sorry, Chris, you're done. And he felt like a giant failure. He's a janitor. And then one day, Johnny Cash comes in. He's like, who in the world is in there right now changing the ashtrays with those brown, with the incredible blue eyes? Well, that's Chris. Who is he? His mom just disowned him because you're his hero. And Chris was in there changing the ashtrays, and Johnny Cash comes in and says, well, it's always nice to get a letter from home, ain't it? And Chris can't believe it. He's like, yeah. But they bonded over it because he was passionate and he had his dream. I'm gonna quit all this, and I wanna pursue an artist's life. So he quit. Chris is starving. He has no money. He's now writing these songs. And then Chris, he's so frustrated, and he has one song. It's about that feeling to be on a Sunday when the bars don't open. And it's called Sunday Morning Coming Down. It's that feeling, loneliness, and nobody believing in you but you. And wishing the Lord that I was stoned. There ain't nothing this Sunday that makes a body feel alone. A Sunday Morning Coming Down was the song Chris knew was something special. How can I get my song with Johnny Cash and make an impact? So, according to Johnny, Chris land that helicopter in his lawn to give him this song. Some fool has landed in our yard with a helicopter right out of the sky. He really listened to the song, and the song went to the next level for Johnny because he understood it. He understood the isolation and the loneliness and wishing the Lord that he was stoned. Excuse me.
You're fine.
So at that time, Johnny Cash was recording his own variety show for ABC. So Johnny said to Chris, hey, we're gonna do Sunday Morning Coming Down right now. And then went through a run through the song. On a Sunday morning sidewalk, wishing the Lord that I was stoned. Well, he did it one time, and the ABC censors came up and said, Johnny, great song. But we actually can't in any way put on the lyrics, wishing the Lord that I was stoned, because that's clearly an allusion to marijuana. And it's in the country tradition. You can do something about alcohol, but marijuana is a no-go. You have to change that. Wishing the Lord I was home. I wrote it, wishing the Lord that I was stoned. I wished I was stoned. So when it comes time to record the song in that show, they put Chris way up in the rafters, because he was on the fringes, man. So the song starts, and he's like, on a Sunday morning sidewalk. And then his gaze goes right up to Chris in the very back row. He's like, wishing, Lord, that I was stoned. Because there's something in the sidewalk makes a body feel alone. And Chris said he felt his heart warm. God bless. You know, my song was on TV. And it meant the world to Chris, because his hero did right by him. Once Johnny Cash says it's cool, well, everybody wants to record a Kristofferson song. Waylon Jennings, Joni Mitchell, James Taylor, Janis Joplin. Chris Kristofferson became the biggest star in the world. Truly, in 1976, and it's been forgotten, he was the biggest star in the world at the time. Chris was huge.